Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to Dirt Grease Outdoor Peace. So on this bike here, this guy came in with a blown head gasket again, which he claims that this was done just a couple years ago. He does put quite a few miles on this thing every year. Doesn't have any money. The one thing that I was pretty upset with when he came in with his own parts was he had cheap no-name gaskets, which I don't like, so I told him up front, there's no warranty on any of my work. I'm not gonna stick behind this thing leaking or not. I said, you buy junk gaskets. It's, you know, I do the best job that I can with what I got, but that's just, I don't like working with that stuff. You should spend the money and make the thing last. But anyways, I tore this thing down yesterday, and the head bolts were loose on it. He gave me some goofy story about what the last guy tried to do with it, and they already replaced the cylinder studs on this thing one time. I don't know why this thing would have been loosening up unless maybe they didn't use the right torque sequence for a metal base gasket. It's a different torque sequence than the original paper gasket. And this is the cheap ass head gasket that was on it. It's all blown out. And the other thing that happened when the last guy did it was he cleaned all these surfaces with a die grinder and Scotch-Brite. And that is something that you don't do on aluminum. What happens is the Scotch-Brite just rounds off all the surfaces. You don't have nice sharp, not only is it not flat and true anymore, but it's not nice sharp edges. Everything gets buffed off, and you can actually remove quite a bit of metal with the Scotch-Brite cookie wheel. And I probably end up pulling these dowel pins off and doing the same thing. So all I did on these so far was use a good gasket scraper. It's just an old file, a broken file that's sharpened into a nice heavy gasket scraper. Stay nice and clean. The problem, I don't like the razor blade scrapers because you can carve into the aluminum. So you use a nice hard scraper like that. And what I'm going to do is flat file these. I made sure that this file is, if I can hold it right, made sure that this file is straight, made sure it's clean. I took, well, clean with the, in the grooves. I took a file cleaner and cleaned it out. So what I'm going to do is just, with the palm of my hand on here, is just swipe these surfaces and try to true these up. I'm going to see how bad they are. If they don't seem to want to true up with the flat file, I'll have to get a piece of float glass and sandpaper and try to do a kind of a half-assed surface job on these. But what I'm gonna, if I had some die chem, I would put it on there. I think what I'm going to try to do is just put a nice coating of marker on there just so we can see exactly what that surface is. I wish I had one of those big Magnum markers. This is just going to give us an idea of how out of shape these things are. Should see if I have a better marker. how well you guys can see that. Basically, it's hitting here. Didn't do anything here. It's hitting over here. So we might, yeah, we'll hit it a little bit more and see what happens. We might have to surface these things. Well, it's hitting pretty even there. Yeah, there's a lot of small imperfections in there from somebody scraping the gasket before, or I don't think it's from the die grinder. Hit this one too. Now if I can get the angle just right, you can see how irregular that surface is. There's kind of a void right here. There's a void right here. And then it's just kind of not hitting all over right here. It's missing right here. So I'm going to hit that a little bit more. I think I am going to do this on a piece of float glass with, I don't think I'm going to start out real coarse. Probably, I'll have to see, just have to see how that plays out. And then I'll do the, pull these dowels out and see what the top of the cylinders look like too. Okay, so I got my piece of float glass here. I just had to clean up the residue that was on there. I had an old piece of sandpaper. We got this really good 3M 100 grit, really good paper, and I got that stuck on there with some, I was lucky I was able to get this can to work. This is some old 3M spray adhesive. Just wanted to make sure, this paper was kind of curled a little bit, so I just wanted to make sure I get these corners down so they're not lifting up on the sides. This paper is sharp. I put the glass on this fender cover so it would kind of stay there. It's probably going to be hard to get started. I might have to try to support the weight of the head a little bit, but try to still keep it square. So it'll be interesting just to see what this looks like on the bottom. Yeah, it's going to be hard to show on camera. Try to get it where I can show the scratches a little bit, but right away I see, let me try to see if this light will do any good. Not really. It looks like it's hitting pretty good all around, and right down here it's hardly doing anything. So I'm just gonna repeat that a little bit. Maybe turn it the other way. All this old paint's coming off of there, making a mess. Yeah, it's still the same thing. It's hitting pretty nice everywhere, except for right here. You can already tell the marker, because of this surface finish from that paper, the marker wants to write on there a little better, so that's going to give our gasket something to grab too also. I'm just putting these squiggles out here just so you can see where it's hitting. Make sure it's hitting all this. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, it's pretty much hitting, cleaning everything up except right there. So I'll do that a little more, see what it looks like. Try to turn it. Yeah, I'm just starting to see the scratches start creeping in here. It looks like it did scuff off some of the marker. So it's just starting to true that up a little bit. So yeah, that's going to be a really nice finish on there. I'll put another. Yeah, it's getting there. Yeah, you can see the finish is really nice everywhere, and you can still see some of the old gasket impression here. So on this head, that appears to be the problem area on this one. I mean, we're not taking off very much material, you know, maybe only a few thousandths, so it's just gonna true it up and make it nice and flat. I took the dowels out of the cylinders and I flat filed those, and we're going to do the same thing with those. So we'll just keep at it. Let me do the initial. Let me do the initial first pass on this other head and just see what that looks like. You can just tell how I put that on there, and the way it slid around, that it wasn't going to grab a gasket. It looks like the same thing. Let me do a little bit more. It looks like it's not hitting very much right there. Yeah, it looks like the same thing. Let me try the cylinder. One of the cylinders. Yeah, these old cylinders get a little funky after a while. The liner, the metal liner in the middle, the iron, I suppose it is sticking up a little bit right here. So this good sandpaper should help us true that up a little bit. Yeah, that cleaned up nice. You can just see, yeah, it's cutting that liner down pretty good. See, that gap is narrowing up a little bit, and it's just making that surface just nice and clean. You can see that's a thick piece of glass. A regular piece of glass would flex too much to do this with. This piece of glass here isn't gonna flex under the weight or deflect or anything. It must be got to be almost 3/8 of an inch. Oh, geez, I think it's half inch thick. And I'm not pushing down on it. I'm just letting it float on there. Yeah, it's pretty darn good. So I'll do the heads a little bit more, and I'll show you guys what they look like. Well, they came out pretty good. I had to do quite a bit of sanding on those to get those to true up. It's just barely hitting in here. I just redid that with a marker again, and got it to where it was taking the marker off on the inside. It's probably only, it's probably less than 1/1000th of an inch that it's lacking right here on the fire ring, I guess you would call it. The same thing here, but the cylinders needed quite a bit too. The liner was a little bit proud here. You can tell how it blended in nice right here, and that should make a really nice gasket surface. That should be nice, two nice flat surfaces that clamp that gasket down good. And then on the bottom, all I did was run the flat file around the outside. Just try to keep the file nice and flat, and clean that surface up. You can see where somebody didn't do too bad of a job on the bottom. There you can see where it's it cleaned this up a lot more here than it did on the inside, but that should seal up pretty good in there. So I just wanted to show you guys how I was gonna clean up these gasket surfaces. I've done this before. I worked on a four-wheeler a long time ago that the guy got it real hot and warped the head, and I surface sanded it like that on that piece of glass. And on that particular one, I had to take off a lot of material on it. I started with a coarser grit and worked my way up, and it was warped. I want to say that one was warped several thousandths, maybe 4 or 5 thousandths. And that one cleaned up good and ran good and stayed together. This one, I feel good about what I've done. The only thing I don't feel good about is the junk gaskets that he bought. So like I said, I'm not gonna stand behind my I'm gonna stand behind my work. I'm not gonna guarantee that this thing isn't gonna leak. So yeah, I just wanted to say, you know, the gaskets are something that you get what you pay for. I would recommend on these Evo Harleys that you buy the good James or Cometic base gaskets. Stick with name brand stuff. The top end, I always just use the standard Harley gaskets. We've always had great luck with those. So yeah, I hope somebody can use that information and get something fixed up for themselves. And if you like the video, do me a favor, go down and hit that like button for me, click subscribe, leave a comment on what you're working on, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot.